Howdy, folks. I'm Jeff Gonzalez, former Navy SEAL, president of Trident Concepts, and host of the Bulletproof Workshop powered by AR15.com, where we discuss knowledge, skills, and ability to help bulletproof your everyday performance in whatever your field or passion. Welcome to Podcast 020. My next guest started in the strength and conditioning industry in the late 70s. He was a competitive powerlifter, winning the Greater Texas Classic. Perfecting his barbell training program over 20 years, his testing and refining led to the publication of Starting Strength Basic Barbell Training. Known for his quick wit, being funny, not holding back, and having an anti-authoritarian streak, he is considered one of the foremost experts on strength training. Having authored several books on the subject, he is sought after for his brilliance in the basic lifts for strength development. He's an author, fellow ornery Texan, barbell pioneer, legendary coach, and training process preacher. Please welcome to the show, Mark Rippetoe. How's it going, Mark?
Jeff, thanks for having me. Appreciate your calling.
I am excited to be here. You have no idea. I have been a fan and follower of your process for a long time. Well, long time to me. I know you've been in the business for a long time. And again, I appreciate you taking the time. And speaking of time, we'll take a short little break to thank our sponsors. Folks, this show is sponsored by 1776 Insurance. We're talking about comprehensive firearms collection coverage. That also includes your accessories as well as knives. If you've got questions or you want to learn more, please visit 1776insurance.com. All right, so we are back. So I'm sure that a lot of folks, and I posted up on our AR15.com forum to the forum members, hey, I'm going to have Mark on the show. Let me know some of the questions. And I didn't get any questions from anybody, but a lot of people were very excited to hear about this podcast. So I'm going to assume that many folks on the AR15.com world know you, but we also go farther than the AR15.com. So let's start from the beginning. And where did you grow up? Where do you hail from?
Well, I'm from Wichita Falls, which is up near the Red River, in the hottest part of Texas. I think people think West Texas is hotter than Wichita Falls, but that's just not true.
It's
just not true.
I've been up there when it's hot, and
fuck,
it's unforgiving.
You can't believe how hot it gets up there. And when the heat settles in, it just stays there, and it's real unpleasant because the humidity never gets below about 20%. So it's 115 at 20% humidity, and it's just
a little uncomfortable.
It's a hellish nightmare. And then in the winter, it's cold.
Well, that's nice.
And
you get a little
reprieve. You get some, really the weather up there is pretty damn good about 9 months of the year.
Wow. I would not have thought that.
It really is nice up there about 9 months of the year. But when it gets bad.
Epically bad.
It's bad. It really is. And I was born there. I went to school there. I was in Colorado for a couple of years, but I've spent most of my life living in Wichita County. And the business is there. I bought the former Anderson's gym in 1984 and have operated it as Wichita Falls Athletic Club since then. And I have been in the actual business in the fitness industry since 1978. So however long that is.
It's a long time.
It's quite a while.
That's quite a while for sure. So growing up in North Texas like that, was there something in the kind of like your early forming years that put you on the path towards strength and conditioning coaching?
Oh, no. I think I remember getting in a fight I was not prepared for when I was about 18 and decided that I needed to be stronger. So I started lifting weights, and I ran into Bill Starr in the weight room at Midwestern University back in 1979. That was the year of our tornado.
Ooh.
We had a big F5 tornado in Wichita Falls in 1979. And April 10th, 1979, it destroyed 1/4 of the buildings in Wichita Falls.
1/4?
It was the first. It was right after the F scale had been devised, and it was the first F5 tornado recorded in North America. And it was the tornado was a quarter of a mile across as it contacted the ground, and with 200-mile-an-hour winds, and it was a devastating event, and and as a result, a bunch of things changed in Wichita Falls, and Starr had lived there for a long time previously, for off and on for years, and did he had family there, and his daughter got injured in the tornado, so he was there in town to kind of take care of her, and I ran into him at the Midwestern weight room a long time ago, and that kind of started me on the path toward this thing as a way to make a living.
One of the things that I also really love about some of the philosophy that you espouse is you talked about like the gifted athlete who makes for a terrible teacher,
right?
And the struggling athlete who makes for the better teacher.
Yes.
And that really resonated with me because in the shooting world, for me to get where I was at, I had to pretty much overcome just about every error.
The same. Jeff, it's amazing that high-level sports has not made this concrete observation. It is a universal truth that people who are naturally good at a thing cannot teach that thing to other people.
Yeah.
Now, that's true of athletics. It's true of math.
Oh, man, I did not know that.
Oh, well, think about it. I mean, why would a 4-year school...
Yeah.
There'll be some edits like that. Why would a 4-year school hire a guy with a PhD in mathematics?
Yeah.
A 24-year-old guy with a PhD, a terminal degree in mathematics, to teach college algebra. He doesn't understand why you don't already understand college algebra, and he can't explain that shit to you.
No, you're absolutely
right. He's got absolutely no ability to understand where the sticking point is for you in this process. Yes. The best math teachers are guys that may have a science degree, but that had trouble getting through Calc 1, 2, and 3, and if they took differential equations, they had trouble with it.
Yeah.
Guys that made B's.
Yeah.
Not A's.
Yeah.
Because they had the problems to solve.
Yes.
That you have to solve. Here's the edit. So this applies to pretty much everything that has to be taught. If you and we deal with this in strength and conditioning in terms of people trying to coach strength and conditioning at the D1 and professional level. If you are on the strength and conditioning staff at a D1 school, mm-hmm. you have 55 kids in the locker room who are provided to you as genetic freaks because the recruiter would not have hired them had they not been genetic freaks. Now, you take an 18-year-old genetic freak, and by that I mean somebody with a 36-inch vertical who learns physical movements visually.
Yeah.
All right, you take him and you put him in a program where he has to do something hard for 4 years. All right? He's already stronger than everybody else on his high school football team.
Yeah.
Or he wouldn't be there. Yeah. He's already strong.
Yeah.
Because he's got an incredibly efficient neuromuscular system. He's stronger than everybody else. He starts off that way. Mm-hmm. You put him on the program and you have him do anything for 4 years.
Yeah.
What's he going to do? He's going to grow and he's going to get stronger.
Yeah.
And what does it look like you as the strength and conditioning coach did?
You know what you're doing.
It looks like you know what you're doing and you don't know a goddamn thing.
Yeah.
Because you haven't taught him how to squat. You haven't insisted that he show you deadlift PRs every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
You haven't insisted that he get stronger under the bar. But as a result of the fact
Yeah.
that you have been provided with this level of talent, it looks as though you know what the hell you're doing, and you've got no idea what you're doing.
It's
You have
so
absolutely no idea, and we have always said that the best strength and conditioning coaches are the guys that are just working in gyms, who work with the general public, who actually require coaching.
true. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah.
And it's the same with what you guys do. Some guys are just physical geniuses with their hands and their eyes.
Absolutely.
Some guys you don't have to explain to them what to do. They already know how to do it. You don't have to teach through the problems because there haven't been any problems for them.
So true, man.
And so none of the corrections in guys like this ever get articulated. None of the corrections get articulated because they don't have to be.
Yeah.
So they don't have the toolkit
Absolutely,
to teach.
man.
They have the toolkit to perform.
Yes.
But they don't have the toolkit to teach. So the best marksman you can find is never going to be the best marksmanship instructor you can find.
100%.
And that, I'm telling you, that is a universal, that is axiomatic across human performance.
I learned that one the hard way because I struggled. Like I didn't necessarily have learning disabilities, but the way that people would teach me were these guys were good shooters, and what they were teaching me didn't make sense.
Right.
Because they just assume, just do it like this.
Do it like this.
Do it like this.
Best lifter in the world does it like this, so let's do it like he did.
Yes.
Well, okay. But that doesn't work.
Exactly.
That never works.
Yes.
It never works for anybody except the other best lifter in the world. It may not even work for him.
That's hilarious.
Look, how many NFL coaches in the history of the sport, in the past 70 years of the NFL, how many of the best NFL coaches in the business were also the best NFL players in the business? None of them. None of them. And there is a reason for that.
Yeah.
There is a reason for that. And what about the NBA? Have there been any high-level NBA coaches that were also high-level NBA players?
Yeah.
And I'm sincerely asking that question because I don't know. I don't follow basketball.
I mean, I only know of like the big name guys like a Larry Bird or a Michael Jordan that went to coaching, but they weren't able to produce a ring. They didn't take it to the championship. Now, is that their fault or is that the team's fault?
Well,
it doesn't matter in a sense.
It may be their fault in that they didn't hire the right assistant coaches that could explain it when they couldn't.
Exactly.
Those guys were hired for their name.
Exactly. Yes.
Not for their coaching ability.
Absolutely.
They're hired for the name. USA Weightlifting goes out and hires Piros Demas as the men's national coach, who's one of the top 5 weightlifters in history.
Wow.
As the men's national team coach. Greek athlete.
Nice.
Fabulous weightlifter. Very, very strong, very efficient, very strong. But they don't understand.
Yeah.
They don't understand that we need somebody to teach us how to program. We need somebody that knows how to program, not that had it programmed for him, but somebody who had to come up with these solutions for himself. How do you have – I watched one day at the Olympic Training Center, I watched a very high-level lifter being coached by the guy that was the then men's national team coach. We were all up there for a camp, and we're in the weight room watching Wes Barnett train one afternoon, and he's being coached by a guy that was a very, very good Romanian lifter, and who is a nice guy, a real nice guy. I can't say anything. He was a personable gentleman. He was a great guy. But we're all sitting around watching these snatches, and the guy missed 165 3 times. Now, that's not a huge giant-ass weight, but we are Americans, and we don't lift big giant-ass weights, right? But he missed this thing 3 times out in front of him, and Dragomir is just walking back and forth. with his hands behind his back. That's how he used to
Huh.
walk. Now, the assumption was at the time, still is, that a lifter at that level cannot be coached in terms of technique because he's already a national level lifter and his technique is solid.
Okay.
But he just missed the goddamn thing three times.
Yeah.
He dropped it in the floor in front of him. He made a technical error, or he would have made the snatch. Now, what was the technical error? And how do you fix the technical error?
I love this. Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, that's the logical analysis.
Yes.
Right? That was never offered. It
Interesting.
was never offered. And I could see what the problem was. The two guys I was with could see what the problem was. But not one time was his technical error corrected. It was a pulling error.
Huh.
It's a mechanical error.
Sure.
You know, if you've done a movement pattern
Yeah.
1,000 times this year, you know, and 30,000 times over your life, you made a technical error. Your form will change a little bit, and you can't feel it. Because if it changes 3 or 4%, that 3 or 4% drift happens over the course of a month. You don't necessarily, because of an injury or something, soreness, something like that, you're in a different position, slightly different position than that is mechanically efficient.
Uh-huh.
You may not be able to tell that you're in that slightly different position.
Sure.
The coach's job is to identify the error
Yes.
and then correct the error. Now, if the lifter is a very, very talented lifter, but he's making an error, whose job is it to identify the error and correct the error?
Should be the coaches.
It's the coach's job.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the coach's job. But if the coach does not recognize that change in position as an error,
Interesting.
because he has never had to think through the process of why we pull the way we do,
Yeah.
why we don't pull the other way, and how to fix the position you see in front of you on the platform into the correct pull, into the correct mechanical position for the pull. Because he himself was a high-level lifter and never had to, he just did it right all the time.
Yeah.
Well, he can't solve that kind of problem. And this applies to all movement-intensive sports, gymnastics, blah, blah, blah. You know, there aren't really, as far as I know, there have never been any Olympic gymnastics coaches that were themselves high-level gymnasts.
Yeah.
Right? I
can't think of any of them.
You know, there aren't any real high-level gymnasts functioning as gymnastics coaches.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't work. High-level athletes never make good coaches. You know, if you had, one of the interesting exceptions to that would have been Richard Feynman, the physicist.
I don't think I know him.
Who was he's great big famous theoretical physicist. Was involved in several big important projects, but he wrote a great big giant treatise on mechanics and wave motion and all kind of other things. And he was an excellent teacher and an excellent physicist at the same time, but he was the exception.
Interesting.
He was the exception because the vast majority of the time, the understanding of complex subjects is accomplished by not understanding them, doing the work it takes to begin to understand them, figuring out the problems, and achieving understanding. I love that. Or you're either so bright, you've got 160 IQ, that it's obvious to you without any kind of explanation. And what do we know about people with 160 IQ?
Well,
they don't communicate well with me and you.
Not at all.
They don't communicate well with me and you.
Not at all.
All right. And that's just the way shit is.
Yeah.
All right. Now, we use those kind of people for things that they're real good at. You leave them alone and let them work.
Yes.
All right. But to teach the subject, you want somebody with 130 IQ that's brighter than most of the students, but that still had to go through the work
Yes.
involved in absorbing the topic. See, and this is across all disciplines.
Yes.
You know.
Yes. I love that because the analogy that I draw and I use in my classes, I use a lot of parallels between lifting weights and shooting. So some of the students that I have, they have a modicum of understanding about that. And I tell them, the barbell never lies. You're either going to make the lift or you're not going to make the lift.
Right.
And the same thing with the bullet. The bullet never lies. It either hit the target or it didn't hit the target.
Right.
And
It's just the straightforward mechanical process.
exactly.
Did you lift it? Did you hit the target?
Exactly. And if you didn't, why? And the interesting thing about my industry and the reason why I love this kind of conversation is because so many of the guys that are in the industry do a very good job of shooting themselves. That came out wrong. Not shooting themselves, but shooting for themselves. And then trying to articulate. I've watched them try to articulate. I can see the shooter. I can see the error, just like, watching from the platform. I
Right.
can see this. And watching the shooting instructors or coaches try to assist that student, it's like, for me, I'm like, oh, my God, I just want to say something right now. I just want
Right.
to do something.
You could tell that the instructor never had the problem
No.
himself.
Absolutely, without a question. And it's like, and when I bring it up, the other thing that bothers me, and I'm curious if you see the same thing here, is when you bring it up to them in an educational aspect, like I'm trying to, like trying to pass this knowledge on.
To the coach.
Yeah, exactly. They are resistant.
Yes. Yes. Especially if they are perceived to have some level of attainment
Yeah.
in this field.
Yeah.
Sure, they don't need their credentials questioned. They don't want their competence
Yes.
assayed by anybody else.
Yes.
Because then that calls their numerical value into question. No, I mean it's perfectly reasonable
It
thing
is.
to, you guard your professional expertise because that's where you make your money.
Makes it a lot. I guess I hadn't thought of it that way, but yeah,
Sure.
I would have. I guess from my perspective, I am. I try to consider myself a perpetual student, always trying to learn.
Yes.
And if I have somebody in a class with me that has a peer or equal or above skill, I'm interested in their assessment, their observations, or their experience because that's how I get better.
Right.
I know that that's not necessarily the same for everybody else, and it's
It really is the same for everybody else. Here,
Yeah.
achievement is an asymptotic approach to a limit.
okay.
That's physical achievement, mental achievement. If you're learning how to play the piano, you've been playing 2 months, you're down here.
Yeah.
Here's the curve.
Yes.
You're approaching a limit. Here's
Yes.
a limit, theoretical limit.
Yeah.
You approach that limit asymptotically. In other words, the closer you get to the limit, the longer it takes,
Yes.
the harder it is,
Yes.
the more effort, the more expense is required to approach the limit.
Yes.
But the early part is rapid and easy.
Yes.
Now, this is just the law of diminishing returns. It applies to everything.
It's so funny to hear you say that. We have a mutual friend, John Wellborn, and Johnny. When I went through a dark period of my life, and getting back into shape was the way out of that darkness. And John was instrumental in that. He created a program for me that I followed, and I can remember almost like every other day. My program was a 4-day program. Every other day, I was texting him, "Oh my God, I just did this. I just lifted that. I just squatted this. I just did that." And for like the first 3 or 4 months, there was just that skyrocketing PR making machine all the time. And then you hit that plateau.
Then the gains start to slow down, and now we have to start thinking. Because at first, when the gains are easy, all you got to do is put 5 more pounds on the bar.
Yeah.
Right? But 6 months from now, when things start to get hard, and you can't complete the 5th rep with 5 more pounds on the bar, now we have to get creative about what we're going to do in the gym today.
Yeah.
Do we back off a little bit? Do we change the program? What do? We got to make complicated decisions that previously we didn't have to make.
Yeah.
But think about it this way. At any given time, the vast majority of the population that either you or I deal with are novices.
Yep.
They're novices.
Yep.
Now when it comes time We need to know how to solve complicated problems for these people.
Yeah.
But most of the people we work with just need to sit down and shut up and put 5 pounds on the bar and then lift it. Do the 5th rep.
Yeah.
I know the 5th rep is going to be heavy. Do you have the balls to take it down, squat it, and stand back up with it? Do you have the balls to try it? Now, you can either do it one or two ways. You can rack it after rep number 4, and now you don't know anything.
Uh-huh.
Or you could try the 5th rep. You can try the 5th rep, and you'll either make it and learn something about yourself, or you won't make it, and you'll learn something about yourself. But if you don't try it,
Yes.
you don't know.
It's so interesting to hear you say that, because I see the same thing. Like, shooters that get to that plateau become stagnant voluntarily because they reach that level, and to put in the extra work to try to shave off a few seconds or increase their distance with the precision is all, you're slicing hairs at that point.
Right.
And the return on the investment is hard to generate. It's hard to validate, if you will.
Right. Well, but this is a good place to introduce the concept of the 2-factor model of sports performance. And this is something that we have pretty much exclusively developed over at Starting Strength, and I think it's very useful for any physical discipline because it is an explanation for what happens, and it is prescriptive for the way to continue to make progress. And the 2-factor model is briefly, if you've got, and it's easy to explain with strength training, so I'll just use this as an analogy. If you have a strength sport, well, you have a sport that is dependent on force production. Now, this covers most sports.
Precisely.
Most sports are dependent on force production, and strength is the production of force against an external resistance. That's what strength is defined as. That's just the physical definition of strength. Very simple.
Yes.
There's not 8 kinds of strength. There's one kind of strength, and that's how hard can you push on something.
Yes.
All right. Now, if you are in a sport that uses force production, let's say you're playing baseball.
Okay.
All right. Baseball uses force production when they throw the ball, when they hit the ball with the bat, when they run the bases, when they catch the ball in weird-ass positions on the field, when they throw the ball back from weird-ass positions on the field. All of this is force production. Baseball is a very, very physical game.
Yeah.
Right? So how do we produce an increased ability to produce force? All right. Well, the most effective way to produce an increased ability to produce force is to train with barbells. And I don't think there's anybody willing to argue that point anymore. It's that conversation. So we already won that argument. So the question would then be, how strong does the athlete need to be?
Good question.
All right. Well, he needs to be as strong as he can get.
Yeah.
Without compromising on the other aspects of his sports performance, which involve the quality we call skill.
Yes.
All right. So he's got strength. He develops strength over here, and then he develops skill over here.
Yes.
Those are the 2 aspects of force performance that feed into each other at the performance. Okay, now strength is trained in terms of, and we use the term training in a very, very specific way.
Yes,
Training is,
I love that.
Training is a systematic approach to applying stress to the body in order that after recovery takes place, an adaptation for increased force has occurred. It's a escalating, there's a slope to it, a positive slope to that line. And strength development starts over here, and it generates a point here that is higher than where we started.
Okay.
through the accumulation of the response to accumulating stress, so that we're stronger down here than we were when we started out. Now, you can look at endurance the same way if you want to, because endurance is a physiologic adaptation to stress, just like strength is.
Yeah.
There are two different types of adaptations. Strength is an architectural adaptation. It requires the construction of new tissue.
Yes.
It requires the remodeling of tissue that's already there. It requires thicker tendons and bigger muscles and denser bones and tougher cartilage and all that stuff. And all of these things, all these physiologic adaptations, are a part of the acquisition of strength.
Yeah.
And that adaptation is obtained by gradually increasing the amount of force required of the athlete during a workout. A workout being one dose of stress application.
Okay.
And the recovery therefrom.
Okay.
All right. So if we go up 5 pounds a week, 5 pounds of workout for a while, 5 pounds of workout, that's the stress. The adaptation is 15 pounds a week of increased force production capacity.
Yeah.
All right. Now, all that happens very quickly at first, and then it slows down.
Yes.
And requires more and more and more effort. All right. Now, keep that in mind, because that's going to figure into what happens later.
Okay.
To the baseball player.
Okay.
Okay. Now, the other aspect of sports performance is skill. All right. Throwing the ball, catching the ball, swinging the bat, doing the things that baseball players do on the field in a performance. The performance is specific. All right?
Yeah.
The performance is specific. You're throwing a 5-ounce baseball at a catcher's mitt 60 feet, 6 inches away from the pitcher's mound.
Yeah.
You got to hit that every time.
Yep.
All right? Unless the batter hits it first.
True.
The batter prepares by practicing hitting balls thrown from that distance at a certain speed, so his hand-eye coordination, his timing allows him to hit the ball. Both are very, very specific, to the performance. The bat weighs about the same. The baseball weighs about the same. All right? And over 10,000 reps, the guy gets pretty good at performing that skill. All right? And what is the 10,000 reps? That's practice.
Okay.
Practice and training are different.
Yes. I love hearing this.
Practice and training are completely different things. Practice is that which is dependent on accuracy and precision.
Okay.
And as such, it is repetition dependent, but it is also specificity dependent. Now, if I give you a 7-ounce baseball to throw at the catcher's mitt, that's different than the 5-ounce baseball.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What are you using in the game? The 5-ounce baseball.
Ounces, yeah.
But if you throw a 7-ounce baseball at the catcher's mitt, what do you do it? You're practicing doing it slow.
Yeah.
You're practicing generating more force than you would with the 5-ounce baseball. But the 5-ounce baseball force generation requirement is what we're going to do on game day.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What in your head as a baseball coach would lead you to believe that a 7-ounce baseball would be better than a 5-ounce baseball? Yeah. And I'll tell you exactly what it is. You don't understand the difference between training for strength, which is not specific, and practice for baseball, which is exquisitely specific.
Yeah.
Right? How do you get stronger? Throwing a 2-ounce heavier baseball or getting your bench up 150 pounds? Getting your press up 100 pounds, getting your deadlift up 300 pounds, getting your squat up 250 pounds. That's how you get stronger.
Yes.
You can't get stronger with a 2-ounce baseball increment, right? So you have to understand that generally we train for strength. Generally we train for endurance. Yeah. Those are general physiologic adaptations, but the specific neuromuscular motor pathway adaptations are trained with repetitions performed under the same exact conditions in which the performance occurs, or as close to it as is feasible.
I love that.
If you look at this model of preparation for sports performance, you will see that this dichotomy has to be understood in terms of the specific sport, okay? Now, if you are a marathon athlete, all right, your training is going to involve a bunch of road miles. But your training also should involve some strength training. Now, I don't want a marathon athlete squatting 225, but he ought to be able to squat his body weight for a set of 5.
You would think.
You would think.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not heavy.
Yeah.
Especially considering who wins marathons. That's not
true.
real heavy.
Yeah.
And what does it do for them? Well, it keeps them from getting hurt so easy.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
It toughens everything up and keeps them from getting injured. But I don't need a power lifter's performance out of the marathon athlete, and I never have said I did. You know, that's not a refutation of this model.
Yeah.
Okay? You want the guy stronger than he is now, but you don't want him to spend so much time training for strength that it interferes with the primary adaptation that he needs for a marathon.
Yes.
Which is endurance.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, by the same token, I don't want a baseball player in the weight room so much that it compromises his ability to practice on the field.
That's true.
I don't need that. I just need him strong enough to hit the ball harder. Now, in baseball, the traditional way to get strong enough to hit the ball harder has been to take steroids. Right?
That's so true.
So Barry Bonds has to go talk to John McCain.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You don't want to talk to John McCain about anything.
No. Yeah.
You don't want to have to do that. You don't want to be dragged your ass in front of a Senate committee for something they have absolutely no interest in investigating. Or shouldn't, but that's what happens.
Yeah.
When you take the easy way out.
So
Instead of just doing your goddamn deadlifts and squats and presses and benches, and doing your power cleans and power snatches, because you are a professional athlete and you ought to be able to do those two movements.
100%.
Right? You know, instead of doing that, you're taking Dianabol. Okay? Well, look, you don't have to talk to John McCain because you did your deadlifts and added 10 pounds to your deadlift over the past month.
I love it.
You don't have to talk to John McCain, and that saves you a bunch of time and travel and aggravation.
Oh, my God.
Having to put on that suit, all this other shit.
But you got to work in the weight room.
But you have to work in the weight room.
Yes.
And depending on how much you're being paid, that shouldn't bother you.
I agree.
You know? I mean, how much are they paying your ass? Play this game.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I've been accused of being a callous barbarian for saying this, but if I'm paying a guy $3 million a year to play baseball, I want him in the weight room and taking steroids.
Well, best of both worlds.
I don't care about his health.
No, but
why do I give a shit about his health? I want his baseball performance.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Now that's callous, but I'm
but if the
famous
name
for
of the
that,
game
but
is to win,
the name of the game is performance, and strength is performance. It's always, why did Barry Bonds hit the fucking ball so far? Because he's a great, big, strong guy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, I can make a guy the same height, the same big and strong. You know, I don't depend on him to be born like that. I know how to make him stronger. I can do it every time.
Yeah.
If I've got that kind of athletic ability and I've got that kind of attention from him, I can make him stronger every single time, and I can make him hit the ball a whole bunch harder, throw the ball a whole bunch faster, and perform on the field. I can make him do that in a very predictable way that I can control precisely over time through training, through my training approach. And then I make sure that my training doesn't interfere with his practice so that he develops both the physiologic adaptations and the skill necessary for the performance.
I love that.
Right? Now, that makes pretty good sense, doesn't it?
It makes a lot of sense.
And if you can analyze any sports performance with that paradigm.
Quick word from our sponsor. We've been working with the folks at 1776 for comprehensive insurance of our firearms collections, and I'm really happy with how things are going so far. And one of my concerns is with the amount of commuting that I do with my firearms collection. What happens should my vehicle be broken into or stolen with my firearms? And there's reason to have this concern because there's 800,000 vehicles stolen per year in America. So it's not, it's a little bit more common than we might think. What I mentioned earlier is that they have a comprehensive insurance plan, which is that they will cover your firearms stolen out of your vehicle, or should your vehicle be stolen, cover the firearms that were in the vehicle. So that's pretty reassuring in a sense. So I've mentioned this before, but the process to apply is pretty easy. Approval is pretty quick. They do not require you provide a itemization or serialized numbers. There's no appraisal or schedules that you have to provide. So really all you want to do is just make sure you have proof of ownership, and that's it. So if you want to learn more about the folks from 1776 and insuring your firearms collection, visit 1776insurance.com. When I am, I'll have, and I think you could appreciate this, I'll have a student after class come up to me and say, hey, this is, I really want to get better at shooting.
Right.
I really want to get better. What do you suggest? What do you advise? And it's always a trick question because there's no way that I can answer that very easily. It's the same as how do I get stronger for you?
Right.
But my response to them in my head, what I want to tell them is you need to get stronger.
Right.
And then I end up giving them a more appropriate response. Well, practice this drill, get out there and just do this. You need to put more time on the range, blah, blah, blah. But what I want to tell them is to get stronger.
Why don't you tell them to get stronger?
Well, I do, but I know they don't want to hear it because I know
Doesn't matter what they want to hear.
Well, that's true too. I shouldn't be concerned.
Jeff, let me lecture you.
Lay it on me.
You are being paid to tell them the truth, not what they want to hear.
100%. And I do, and that's the funny thing is I do that without exception.
We have that same problem with coaches all the time.
Yeah.
Here you've got, now it's time for you to piss off your client.
Yes. Oh, I do it so
What
well.
are you going to do?
Yeah.
Are you going to piss the client off, or are you going to deposit the check?
Yeah. So true.
Now, the honest man pisses off the client.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because they're paying you
Yeah.
to tell them what they need to hear.
Oh, yeah.
They're not paying you to tell them what they want you what they want you to tell them.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, they may or may not. They may or may not
say
be
they
paid,
want to hear
but
it.
they say they want to hear it, and if they quit, they quit.
Yeah.
Now you've got a hole in your schedule somebody else can take.
fair enough.
Right?
That's a good point.
It's an excellent point.
It is.
And you clean up your client base because you don't want people in there that don't want to listen to what you have to tell them. If you want to tell them to get stronger, then you say you need to get stronger. Now, here's the way to get stronger, all right? And when I mean, what we're accused of all the time is being dogmatic.
Oh, okay.
All right? I can defend my dogma. All right?
Fair enough.
I defend it for hours.
Yeah.
I can defend my dogma. If I tell you that you need to do 6 exercises,
Yeah.
you need to squat, you need to press, you need to deadlift, you need to bench press, you need to power clean, and you need to do chin-ups.
Okay.
Those are the 6 basic exercises that you need to do. You don't need to do anything else, but you have to do as many of those 6 as you can, and you don't get out of any of them unless you're injured.
Fair enough.
And we've got, furthermore, we have specific ways that we have analyzed and developed to do those 6 exercises in the way that is most efficient. And by that I mean the ways that train the greatest amount of muscle mass during the movement pattern, and the ways that operate that movement pattern over the longest effective range of motion, because that is the way to make the exercise generate the greatest strength adaptation for the amount of time spent under the bar.
Love it.
And as it turns out, we have heard from people that hadn't really thought about this, why there are as many ways to squat as there are grains of sand on the beach. Well, that's bullshit. That's absolute bullshit. And there's not as many ways to shoot a pistol as there are grains of sand on the fucking beach. Now, are there?
They're so true.
There aren't that many ways to do this.
No.
Now, there are ways that look different
True.
than other ways to do it, but that are, in essence, exactly the same, and they look different because different people are doing them.
That's it.
Right? So the way one guy squats may look different than the way another guy squats, but that's because his back is longer and his legs are shorter than the other guy.
Yeah.
The geometry is going to appear different when he executes what is essentially for him the same movement pattern
Yes.
being executed by the other guy. All right? And why execute it that way? Because it works the most muscle mass over the longest effective range of motion and lets him get more weight moved over the exercise.
I love that.
Now, what we do is different than what everybody else does because we don't think about muscle groups at all.
Yeah.
We're not concerned with muscle groups.
Chest and tris.
We're
Not gonna do-
concerned. We're not concerned with chest and tris. We're not concerned with buys and hams, and quads and calves. All this shit. We're concerned with movement
Yeah.
patterns.
Yeah.
Human movement patterns.
Yeah.
And human movement patterns are you squat down and you stand back up.
Yeah.
You pick something up off the ground.
Yeah.
You
Love
push something up over your head.
Yeah.
You push something away from you. You pull something toward you.
that. It's so true.
You throw something up and catch it. This is the movement patterns themselves use all of those muscle groups. There's not anything left out of a deadlift. Everything is in contraction in a deadlift if it's heavy enough.
Yeah.
Right? And all you've got to do is strengthen the movement pattern. And all the muscle groups that contribute to the kinetic chain will get stronger.
Yeah.
Because they don't have a choice.
So it's one of the things that I try to talk to John about early on is like, listen, this is what I need. I want to be able to lift something heavy off the ground like a down man.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to put him on my shoulders and carry him, so like a back squat.
Mm-hmm.
I need to be able to pull.
Or get him up on your shoulders.
Exactly.
Like a power clean.
A power clean. I never thought of that.
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
Like a power clean.
And I need to be able to lift myself up on a wall like a pull up or chin
Like
up.
a pull up or chin up.
And then I need to lower myself down. And we went through kind of like the progressions that I needed to be able to function to perform my duties.
Right.
And that's all I wanted. I didn't want anything.
You don't need biceps
No.
or separation or muscularity or any of this bullshit.
I didn't want any of that, and I wanted just and I use the term bare bones, but actually it's not bare bones.
No.
It's just what is necessary.
It's just all that's necessary.
Exactly.
It's all that's necessary because every movement pattern that you can execute other than those 6
Mm-hmm.
is a sub-unit of one of those
six. Yeah. So it's an
Right?
accessory move.
It's a derivation or
Okay.
variation of that main movement. If you're going to pick something up off the ground and the bar is on the ground,
Yeah.
and you're going to pick it all the way up to the top, a variation of that would be the rack pull, which is the top half of the pull.
Yeah.
Or a halting deadlift, which is the bottom half of the pull. But they're both versions of the deadlift. They're both expressions of the same amount of the same movement pattern
Yeah.
that comprise the basic parent movement, the deadlift.
Yeah.
Right? And if let's say you've got a particular set of constraints. You've only got 30 minutes a week to train.
Mm-hmm.
What do?
Yeah.
Well, you pick the 2 movement patterns that you can train in 30 minutes that cover the most of that territory. And what I would do in that situation is I would deadlift and press.
Interesting.
I would deadlift and press, realizing that I was leaving out important stuff
Yes.
that I need to come back to later.
Okay.
When my schedule allows a more efficient approach to the training problem.
Nice.
Right.
I like that.
And that'll apply to all kinds of different things.
I was actually going to ask you if I only could do one lift, what would it be? But
Probably
in this case,
the deadlift.
But in this case, I mean, the press is also something that's probably
The
easy.
press is extremely important in terms of making you the strongest overall. The squat is the most important.
Okay.
But the squat requires equipment that the deadlift doesn't require.
Yes.
And that might be a consideration.
I like that.
You know,
I like that.
That might be a consideration in terms of building muscle mass and making the whole body strong.
Yeah.
There's nothing that competes with the squat.
Yes, I love it.
The deadlift allows you
Hope
to
you're listening to that, Jamie.
lift heavier weights, but the deadlift also operates over a shorter range of motion for the knees and the hips. So the squat is preferred.
Okay.
That's the basis of our training program. But in the special case,
Yeah.
of if I've got a limited amount of time to apply to this problem, those are the two things I would do, and I would do them twice a week.
Okay.
And I would take a linear approach to that program. I put 5 pounds of workout on both movements.
Nice.
5 pounds on the deadlift, 2.5 pounds on the press. That's what I would do.
I actually may experiment with that. I may experiment. And the reason why I may experiment with it leads into my next question, which is, so I'm an aging athlete, high mileage, got a lot of miles on the chassis, want to continue to perform at, an appropriate peak level for myself.
Sure.
In this day and age, training for me has changed a little bit. Part of that change is my age. I'm getting older. But the other thing is, and you mentioned it, was time. I'm investing more time in other activities.
Right.
That I there's only so many hours in my day, so I've had to try to rethink my my programming.
Right.
And
Yeah, things, once you get in our position, things do not become, things don't stay about your own personal performance anymore.
Yeah.
Things change in terms of shifting toward the performance of the other shit we're trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So true.
Over here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And you have to adjust your training.
Yeah. So
I've had to do the same thing.
I'm gonna play with the deadlift and press because I am now down. I was at 4 workouts a week. I'm down to 2 workouts a week.
That's what I do.
So I'm gonna do both deadlift and presses for maybe like 30, 45 days and see. I know what results I'm going to get because I've done the system before. I've worked through that progression of constantly adding weight resistance to whatever it was that I was doing, and I saw the results.
Right. If you're going to plan on doing presses and deadlifts 2 days a week, I'd make one day the PR day where you go up in weight, and the other day 80%.
Okay, fair enough. I can do that.
That's simple enough.
Yeah,
it
it's
won't
easy.
take you 30 minutes to do this. You start off on your deadlifts, and you do your deadlift warm-ups, and then you do your press warm-ups. So you're going to set up 2 stations.
Yep, easy.
And when you get warmed up for your work sets, you're doing both sets of work at the same time, and you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah, 40 minutes is
and that's
all you'll spend.
perfect. I mean,
Yes.
I've adapted. I started running again, so I like to get up early and go run with my dog. And then as soon as I'm done with the run, I'm in the gym. I'm working. I'm very fortunate to have my own rig in my gym, or my garage, I should say. I just call it my gym. And so that's an easy thing for me to do. I also try to encourage I will post videos up just because I feel like other people benefit from that. I've had so many people that have, even though I didn't say you need to get stronger, they recognized that they were inefficient on the firing line. 16 hours.
If you're not strong, 16 hours is a long day.
It is.
And it's a shorter day if you're stronger.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I find favorable about that is one of my greatest nemesis is that as fatigue sets in for these students, their mental ability to stay focused on the simplest of tasks starts to wane on them.
Yes.
And now I have to consider, well, do I need to kind of shorten the day? And I hate doing that because I've got a curriculum to follow. I've got steps that I need to make.
You got shit to get done,
exactly.
and it just takes time.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But they are not.
If they come unprepared for that,
exactly.
then it compromises their ability to get the most out of the course.
Absolutely. And
Sure.
so it's frustrating for me. And so I've tried to encourage that when I can through my own example. I try to always lead by being, out there. And I've had so many students that have, for right or wrong, when I get asked what should I do, I usually tell them, get to a gym, do something that has you moving a barbell. whatever
Right.
it is. If you could do, if, I try not to get on a soapbox and say, well, this is the best. This is the best.
Yeah, you don't need to program strength. That's
No,
what
I
you're
don't.
for.
Exactly. I don't want to.
I don't program shooting, and you don't program
Yeah,
strength.
not at all.
That's what other professionals are for.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So my thing that I try to get across to them is do some basic research and find something. Maybe you don't have anything in your area. Unlikely, because I get all the excuses. I hear them all the time. Well,
Right.
I don't have time. I don't have money. I've got kids. I've got family. I've got this. I've got that.
Well, and it finally comes down to the final question is, how much does this mean to you?
Yeah, exactly.
How much does this mean to you? You want to get better or not? I'm just telling you what you need to do to get better,
Exactly.
and you're telling me why you can't.
I know.
I don't want to hear why you can't. I want to know how you're going to make it happen, or I don't care.
I love IDC. I don't care.
I don't care. Here's what's required.
Yeah, that's my hashtag.
I can't change what's required because your particular personal situation doesn't allow for that.
Yeah.
I can't change what's required.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. When I've had those students that have come back that have taken the initiative on their own and gone out and they've, usually I'll see somebody like once a year. I'll go to a location and I'll return maybe a year later to that same location and I'll see some of the same students. And I'm always, always, always so excited to see students that have taken that year and
gotten better.
Yes.
Yes.
And not better, but they got stronger.
Right.
And when they get on the firing line, they crush it. They're just, it's such
Right.
a different student. They're,
Right.
I wouldn't say black and white, night and day, but their ability to tackle the new skill that I'm throwing at them is advanced because they have such a strong base.
Right.
Literally.
Right. Now, another aspect of their getting stronger that is so important, Jeff, it's just you can't understate the importance of having gone through the process of applying an incremental increase in stress over time and watching your own numbers go up, because that teaches you something that can't be learned anywhere else.
No.
It teaches you something that is best learned under the bar. I start a kid out at 135 pounds for 3 sets of 5 on the squat. And 6 months later, that kid is doing 365 pounds for 3 sets of 5 on the squat. Happens all the time. Happens all the time. His body weight's going up 35 pounds.
Oh, jeez.
And he has learned something about his ability to control his situation, hasn't he?
Yes.
His incremental application of an increase in stress
Yeah.
has taught him a lesson about how to get better at everything else he's going to do.
100%.
This is the most important aspect of what we do for not only kids that age, but for old people who have decided, I'm about ready to give up on this shit. I hurt, but these guys are, these guys are starting strength. They're telling me that I can. So I'll go in there and try for a month and see how it is. And after a month, her deadlift is up 40 pounds.
I love it. I love
This
it.
old woman's deadlift is up 40 pounds. This old guy's deadlift is up, after a month, he's up 65, 70 pounds. And suddenly, getting up off the toilet
It's not that hard.
is not that hard anymore. Right?
Getting old is-
So what have I handed him?
Yeah.
I've handed him the tools that he needs. This is everybody that we train. We've handed them the tools they need to not just get up off the toilet,
Yeah.
but to solve physical problems and every other kind of problem they might encounter.
Yeah.
An incremental approach to the accumulation of the adaptation.
Yes.
Whether you're playing the piano or deadlifting,
Yeah.
it's an incremental approach to the accumulation of the skill or the accumulation of the physiologic adaptation to solve the problem. And that cannot be, that is probably the most important thing that we do with most of the people that we train.
I love that.
We're teaching them how to solve not just this problem with the barbell on the floor right here. It's everything. How do you look? Your grandkid is a giant pain in the ass. All right? Your grandkid is a giant pain in the ass. How are you going to deal with him?
Yeah.
Well, you incrementally.
Yeah.
You deal with him incrementally.
5 pounds at a time.
You just 5 pounds at a time. You don't just go in and try to wholesale modify his behavior.
I fucking love that.
You just take the opportunity to teach him one thing today.
Yes.
That's
brilliant. That is brilliant. I love it. It's so awesome. I mean, and the other thing, and you touched on it, was learning about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And
yes,
the like we said earlier, the barbell never lies.
Nope.
It's going to tell you the truth every time. And the question is, are you willing to listen to
Do
that?
you have the balls?
Yes.
All right, that's the question. Now, if you get down to the third set of 5 for the work set you're going to do today, and the 4th rep of that third set of 5, last set you're going to do, you got 1 rep left in the workout. And you say, it felt real hard. I don't think I can do this.
Yes.
I'm going to put this up. I'll call that an RPE of 8.79384. All right. But what you did was you pushed out.
Yeah.
All right. Now, if you do the 5th rep, and this is terribly critical, what you're obtaining is data.
Yes. Yes.
Can you do it or can you not do it? If you do it, then what you have learned is that you can do things that you thought you couldn't do.
Yeah.
Now, nothing teaches you that better than the bar.
Yes.
Nothing teaches you that just because you think it's going to be hard doesn't mean you can't do it.
Yeah.
I do that all the time. I do that I've been training for 48 years. And a year and a half ago, before I hurt my knees a bit, I was squatting in one night, and I had my spotters around me. I was going to do 335 for a set of 3, which was heavy for me.
Yeah.
Right? It's not heavy, but it's heavy for me because I'm old and beat up and injured and useless and shit. So I get these 2 guys to spot me on this set, and warm-ups had felt like shit. Everything felt like shit.
Yeah.
You can't tell from the warm-ups. I know you think you can tell from the warm-ups, but you can't tell. You can't tell from the warm-up. You have no. If I can't tell from the warm-ups, you can't tell from the warm-ups either.
Okay, I love that.
So I did 275 for a single for my last warm-up, and I racked the bar, and I said, "Oh God Almighty, this is going to be." But 335 is the number for 3. So I loaded it. I sat down a little while, loaded. I got up, and I said, "All right, you guys spot me on this." And I took the bar out of the rack, and I did the first rep. And I said, "All right, God."
I get
close.
real personal with God in those moments.
Get close. I don't know about the rest of the set. Get close. So I did the second rep, and I said, "All right, I'm going to go ahead and try the third one, but I want you guys to be ready to take it off of me."
Yeah.
So I did the third rep, and it felt like shit, felt grindy. I stood up with it, racked it, and I said, "How'd those look?" And both of them told me they all 3 looked the same.
Oh, wow.
The third rep was not any slower than the first rep.
Yes.
Now, my perception
Totally different.
was totally different than that. But if I, with 48 years of experience, can't tell what the bar speed is, because that is the direct metric of the amount of force I'm putting into the system.
Love it.
Right?
Yeah.
If I can't tell from the bar speed, if I think the bar speed is diminished and it hasn't, then you can't either. All right?
I love that.
So all of this limitation that you're applying to yourself because you think something is going to be hard is nothing more than cowardice.
Love that.
It's cowardice. Learn to work past cowardice, because it's a hell of a lot easier to work past cowardice in the gym
Yeah.
than it is in a firefight.
For sure.
But you develop the habits
That's exactly what I
in
was
the
going to say.
gym
Yes.
of overcoming that which you don't know you can overcome.
Yes.
You develop the habit of being able to do that under the bar.
Yes.
And it carries over to everything else.
It's so true. And I was just going to say about habits and how important habits are.
Yes.
And there's a couple things that you said that I want to hit on, but habit was a big one. And I also talk about like there's two types of pain. There's the pain of discipline that takes the discipline it takes to get yourself in that position and do the work.
Yes.
And then there's the pain of regret, which is you get to that fourth rep and you rack it as opposed to trying for that fifth one. And then you always think in the back of your head.
You think in the back of your head, I really am a pussy.
There's that. And I regret that.
And that's painful.
It is painful.
I really am a pussy. I should have tried. I probably could have got that.
Yes.
And even if I hadn't got that, the spotters were there.
Yes.
And I wasn't going to hurt myself. I just didn't want to fail.
Yes.
I didn't, but I don't know whether I would have failed or not because I didn't try.
Yes. I love it. It's so true. The other thing I wanted to touch on was you have talked about like, and you said it right there, your perception. The first rep, and as a novice lifter, the first rep feels good. And I'm still focused on that first rep when I'm starting the second rep, and then there's a disparity. Something goes wrong. I'm not focused on that. What's the secret to trying to ensure, like in your case, the three were identical?
Well, there's a real good way to do that. All right, and this is something I did not know when I was competing in powerlifting back in the 80s, because I hadn't yet been placed in a position where I had to analyze the movement pattern for what it was. I did not understand the musculoskeletal mechanics of the squat. I didn't understand the physiology going on. I didn't understand about fatigue. I didn't understand anything. I just understood squat down, stand back up. All right, now squat down, stand back up is fine with the empty bar. But when you're trying to do 589 at a meet, you had better have a plan of how to execute that movement pattern, and I didn't have a plan because I didn't know anything about how to have a plan. So when you learn how to squat the way we teach you to squat, and when you learn how to do all of the lifts we teach you to lift, there is a movement pattern that you are going to think about executing during that deadlift.
Yeah.
What do I think about during the deadlift? Well, what you think about is you take your grip, you put your hips in the correct position, and you push the floor.
Yes.
You push the floor away from the bar. Now, when it gets heavy, all you've got to think about is push the floor away from the bar. There's a mechanical job you've got to do, and you focus on that, and it'll go.
Yeah.
If you're capable of pulling it, it'll go.
Yeah.
But if you don't focus on that,
yes,
and you get out of position and you don't execute the movement pattern correctly because you're not thinking about the correct execution, it may not go.
Yeah.
When it would have gone had you thought about the movement pattern you're going to execute correctly. So the focus in these lifts is extremely specific. What do I think about to squat the bar? What do I think about? I have to think about my position on the way down, and I have to think about what I'm going to do in order to get up out of the bottom of the squat. And I got to be focused on that, not, oh, fuck. If all you've got in your head is, oh, fuck, this is more weight than I've ever done before. This is a PR. Oh, fuck. That doesn't contribute to the execution of the movement pattern.
Yes.
What contributes to the execution of the movement pattern, the necessary thing for the third attempt on the platform, is your focus on how to do the squat. What do I do to get out of the bottom of this damn thing?
Yeah.
And what do I do to ensure that I continue to drive the thing up all the way out of the hole?
I love it.
See, all of this is extremely important, and you teach the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. It's a mechanical task.
Yes.
And if you focus on the mechanics of the task, not what you're doing the task with, but the mechanics of the task.
Yes.
I don't focus on 622.
Yeah.
I focus on shoving my ass up out of the bottom and staying in my hips.
Yes.
Then I'm much more likely to get the thing than to go, oh, shit.
That's heavy.
This is heavy. Oh, my God. What am I going to do? This is heavy.
And there have been some times like as I do my warm-up sets, I'm getting, near the working weight, and the warm-up sets feel heavy.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden I get into the workout weight and I get into a mindset and I lift the bar out of the rack and I kind of get situated. And as I'm starting to descend, it feels different. Even though it's heavier, it feels different. And I'm probably not focusing well enough during the warm-ups because they're warm-up weights, and I'm not putting that effort in like I do.
Well, and nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to focus on 225 the way they will on their work set.
Yes.
But you need to at least run through the checklist.
For sure.
While you're doing 225, you need to run through the checklist because even that day, even though you've done this 1,000 times, you're establishing the movement pattern for the rest of the sets you're going to do this day, and they've got to be done correctly.
Yes.
And if you don't, you're going to hurt yourself.
Well, that's what I most worry about. I told it's like that's number one goal for me is injury prevention. And that's how I also look at strength. Strengthening helps me to stay healthy and avoid injury.
Right.
The stronger I am, the less likely I am to get hurt.
Exactly. Now, if you were a competitive lifter, the number one consideration would not be avoiding injury.
Mm-mm. It's probably pushing to the point of injury.
You have to.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to. But being a shooter, you don't need to be hurt during your training because that doesn't contribute to
the skill.
To the skill of executing the sport.
I love that. I do. So we've got, I'm sure, plenty of folks that are once they watch this, they're now probably thinking, okay, I'm going to take this seriously. I'm going to actually go out, either purchase the book or join the club or watch the videos and start on their own. My hope is that they will, and that they take that lessons, or they take the lessons that you've talked about. Number one, put the weight on the bar, do the work, and don't be a coward.
Right.
Don't be a coward. And the life lessons that are assigned to that will hopefully become more evident the harder the harder it gets, the more that life lesson gets.
You don't see the point on day one.
No.
But after 3 years under the bar, you will have already applied this to daily things.
Yes. Without even knowing it.
Without knowing it.
Yes.
You will have incorporated this method into problem solving.
Yes. I love it. So the goal for this message to those would-be lifters is get to that, is it get to a year, get to 6 months, get to 3 years? What should be the goal for these folks that are just looking to start in? Maybe they've done it in the past, maybe they haven't done it in a while. What's the goal for them? Is there like a timeline that you?
The goal is the next workout.
Okay.
The goal is 5 more pounds.
Okay.
Because you don't know how long 5 more pounds is going to work. It might work for 6 months. If your schedule is interrupted periodically by other things that you're doing, it might last 12 months.
Okay.
You don't know. But if you don't focus on the next workout as the primary focus of your attention, then you get into, we see this all the time, you get in the habit of worrying about problems that you don't have to solve yet.
Okay.
And then you start trying to prematurely solve problems that don't exist. If you've got 5 more pounds on your deadlift, just put it on the bar and lift the damn thing. Instead of trying to worry about how some exotic programming is going to solve a problem that you're not experiencing right now.
I love it.
It's terribly tempting to get all wrapped up in,
yes.
When do I go to a late stage novice program, and then when do I change over to intermediate program?
You're not
that'll happen later.
Yeah.
Right now, I need the 405 fifth rep on the bar.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's so funny because I literally can remember when I finally got to 405 and the 5th rep on that one. And I was visiting a gym in Houston. I was visiting a CrossFit gym in Houston, and I went in and worked out during the off hours because I was on my own program. I wasn't participating in anything else. And they were really gracious to let me come in there. And he's like, "Hey, do you mind?" And I was lifting. I was getting the working sets or the warm up sets going. And the guy asked if he could videotape, and I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I guess." And he videotaped, so I actually have it on video. The first time I pulled, 5 reps from 405. And I remember thinking the first time I got it off the ground, because it had been the first time that I was going for 5 reps at 405. And I can see the video in my head. I can remember exactly what was going through my head. And that was what you said earlier, which was pushing my heels through the ground. And that's all I can remember thinking. Like, I had good grip.
Right.
And I had, the bar, and I love the cues that you give as far as getting set up properly for the lifts.
Yes.
Those cues have stayed with me forever, and they've never failed me.
And they eliminate a lot of the work that you have to do during the movement had you not done the setup correctly.
Absolutely.
Right.
The stability and alone, the stability and it's just amazing in that sense. So when I just kept saying to myself, just keep pushing through the floor, keep pushing through the floor. And after the 5th rep, I almost felt like I feel like I have more in the tank. I feel like there's more there. So I don't know why I can't remember why I was bringing that story up to tell you, but I just got excited about it because I was remembering the experience.
Because it is a stark reminder of the fact that if you have a movement pattern to focus on that is derived from a correct analysis of the movement, then you can lift heavier weights because your brain doesn't go into oh shit mode.
Yes.
All right. You want to avoid that at all costs.
Yes.
Because oh shit is not a cue.
That's not part of your list?
No, that's not on the list. Oh shit is not on the list.
Or fuck this is heavy.
Fuck this is heavy is not on the list. What is on the list is how do I get it off the floor? The way you get it off the floor is you set the low back and you shove your feet into the ground and push the bar away from the floor.
Love it, man.
And then the rest of it, you don't really have to think about it.
It's
except
so
keep
true.
Pushing on the floor.
And that was the other thing. It's like when you learn the proper neural pathways, they all just kind of fall into place.
That's right.
It's just kind of like it's like
because we have done the anatomical and mechanical analysis for you.
Yeah.
I promise you that the way we're doing these lifts is the best way you can do these lifts.
Yeah.
I guarantee you our shit has never been refuted.
I love
it. It hasn't been refuted. It's been argued with,
but
it's never been refuted.
Yeah.
There's one way to squat.
Yeah.
That's the way the heaviest weights in the world end up getting squatted. And it's the way to teach the squat so that you can lift the heaviest weights you can today.
Yes.
All right? There's one way to teach that.
Yeah.
There's one way to execute it. It may look different with people of different anthropometries, but there's one way to do it correctly. Now, if you're strong enough to do it wrong, that's a different thing entirely, isn't it?
Yes, totally.
That's a totally different thing entirely. Could you do more right? Well, yeah. But see, this is why the greatest lifters in the world do it this way. That's not a valid argument.
Absolutely
It's absolutely not a valid argument.
Yeah. It's just, it makes, I understand why somebody would say that, and more importantly, I understand why somebody without a detailed understanding of what they're observing would not recognize that that's not the right thing.
I know why they say it. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
They just haven't thought about it for the hundreds of hours that I have, and haven't looked at the videos and hadn't done the mechanical analysis that we've done. And it might make logical sense to say, well, the greatest lifter in the world does it like this, so what is this shit you're teaching?
Yeah.
Well, what I'm teaching is the way he should do it if he wants to do another 10 kilos. That's what I'm teaching. Well, how do you know that? Try it.
See what happens.
See what happens.
And that was the other thing, too, that I tell people. It's like, yes, I hear a lot of excuses, but the bottom line is just try it. Just try it.
What's it going to hurt?
Exactly.
To try it. This is the funny thing.
I love it.
All right. We pull everything off the floor with our hips up in the air. Mm-hmm. Now, if you look at American Olympic weightlifters, they all do this, and then they pull the bar off the floor. All right. because that's what their coaches think you need to do. Because, of course, the greatest lifters in the world do it that way, and that's what they're So what we do when we have a seminar and we're doing the power clean in the morning, we always ask the group, is anybody in here been taught to do the clean with low hips by, for example, an American weightlifting coach? And when we get somebody in there, and we don't very often, but 3 or 4 times a year, we'll have somebody say, yeah, I've been coached by so-and-so, and I've been to 2 or 3 meets, and this is the way I was taught to pull. Huh. We say, wonderful. Now.
Come forward, my friend.
Now, we're going to show you something, all right? And what we'll do is we'll put, a moderately heavy weight on the bar, 90, 100 kilos, something like that.
Yeah.
And I'll say, all right, I want you to pull this thing off the ground with your low hips version, the way you've been taught to do by Olympic weightlifting coaches that say, well, the greatest weightlifters in the world do it this way, and so this is the best way to do it, because that's their logic.
That's their logic, yeah.
Right. Greatest lifters in the world do it with low hips, so you're going to do it with low hips. So we have them pull the bar off the ground with low hips. And what we do is we set the camera up and shoot straight forward, and we have a blue line on the wall of the gym. All right? So we look straight at level with the blue line in the camera, and we see how high the bar goes with the low hips. And we'll let them pull the bar with low hips, which is the comfortable way they've been pulling it. That's the movement pattern they're familiar with. Yeah. And then after that, once they're tired, we'll have them raise their hips up and pull the bar in a straight line off the ground, the way we mechanically teach for various reasons.
Yeah.
That just works better mechanically.
Yeah.
Because it accelerates the bar better. And we measure the difference against the wall. We measure the difference against the wall that the bar traveled with the 2 pulling styles. And every time we will see that the bar traveled between 4 and 6 inches higher with our high hips pull than with their low hips pull. It's every single time. That's never been demonstrated otherwise. They're more familiar with the low hips.
Interesting.
They may have never even done the high hips before.
Wow.
And a bar goes higher at the same weight. Bar goes higher at the same weight. Now, you do with that what you want to, but I'll tell you what I think about that is that you just accelerated the bar more efficiently, because why in the hell else would it have more velocity and therefore more momentum and therefore have traveled higher, and therefore you could have done more weight with it like this than with your weight, right? So, we've done this we've been doing this for like 15 years. And every single time we do it like this, we show you exactly the same thing. Yeah. And yet they still want to argue about
it. I feel your pain. I do.
It's just,
well, okay. So, and I'm sure that the lesson learned at that moment by watching, because we call it the one eye no lie, the video camera, one eye no lie. And watching the video performance there, do you see them deciding to change?
Yeah.
At that moment?
Usually we do.
Okay, good.
Usually we do, because the athletes aren't as hard-headed as the coaches.
Well, if they're good athletes, they want to perform.
If they're good athletes, they know what the hell we just showed them.
Yeah, they want to perform at
I've never
peak
done
levels.
it that way before. Oh, look at it on the video. Oh, shit. Oh.
Wait a minute.
All right, got it. I understand now.
And that's...
The athletes know this.
Yes.
Very few of them are so married. Now, I've run into them. But very few of them are so married to their coach that they will voluntarily lift lighter weights than they can if I show them what to do.
That's crazy. I mean, I understand it. The loyalty is it's a nice quality trait.
It's wonderful trait, when it's warranted.
Yes, But if the goal is to perform at peak performance
Right.
to obtain a win,
And somebody shows you something that was different than you're doing and it works,
why?
what do? You
Why?
incorporate it, or you're just not being intelligent.
Or you're not playing to win.
Right. One of the two.
Yeah.
You're playing to conform.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
You want to be a team member, or you want to be a winner?
Yeah.
Which do you want to be?
Yeah.
And if the coach is telling you to do something that doesn't work as well as something else, and you continue to do what the coach tells you to do, you're being a team member.
Yeah. You don't want to win.
You don't want to win.
Yeah. And that's I understand that, but at the same time, that that just goes against the grain for me. It's just like
Sure.
it's so
As it should with
yeah,
everybody
yeah,
that
exactly.
spent that much time
Yes.
perfecting
That's
a
the
skill,
other thing.
perfecting a performance. You can't be presented with information that will allow you to improve your performance and then ignore it because this guy over here has got his little feelings on the line.
Oh, my feelings are.
My feelings as a coach are hurt. What do you don't respect me or what? No, it's not that, coach, I don't respect you. It's that you're not right. It's not the same thing. You know?
It's true.
You're wrong about this. Look,
Yeah.
this is the empirical evidence
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Look at this 5 inches of pull. And you're telling me to do it the other way anyway? Well, no. You know?
Oh,
it's
God.
just, but, you know, and I understand you don't want to piss the guy
Yeah.
off, especially if you're in a junior
Yeah.
position on the team.
Yeah.
You know, if you're just up and coming and this guy's taught you everything you know, but now you've been introduced to another concept and he'd agree with it, I understand you're kind of in a shitty position.
Yeah, you are, but
You know, but it's something that you as an adult, it's going to happen again.
absolutely. And
It's going to happen again. You're going to be confronted down the road with this same situation over and over and over. And if you intend to make something out of yourself, you're going to have a plan to deal with it.
for
you
sure.
know?
Let me ask you this question. We're kind of on the subject a little bit, but how do you deal with failure? Like over the course of your career, whether it be lifting yourself or coaching, how have you dealt with failure?
The way I've dealt with failure is adapt to it. If I have no shit failed, well, there's a reason for it. If I was wrong about something when I was coaching, and I have been several times, I change it.
Okay.
I change it because you have to.
Nice.
Because if you don't change it,
Yes.
not only are you wrong,
Yes.
but you look like a fool.
And
And I don't want to look like a fool.
No.
You know, I do that enough accidentally, organically. I do that enough already. But if somebody shows me that I'm wrong on a piece of mechanical analysis, and that's happened.
yeah, nice.
You know, we've learned things from the guys in the seminar. I've learned important things about the math of these mechanics. In fact, I've learned most of it about the math of the mechanics from guys in the seminar that are engineers.
Yes.
And I just I just steal it.
And I love it.
I steal it. But I will say, look, remember we said that was not right.
Yeah.
Here's the right thing.
I love that.
Okay. And they can, what I found is that people appreciate your being able to say that I have learned something just like you have.
Yes.
I have learned something and I continue to learn.
Yes.
And if I can't learn now about my own training, I have the entire time that I was a competitive lifter, I was fucking things up. I overtrained all the time.
Oh, I love it.
I didn't think about the mechanics. I just did what I was told, and that's wrong. I competed at the wrong weight class. I didn't. Most things I did wrong.
Wow.
Most things I did wrong.
Wow.
And but you're in the middle of it,
Yeah.
and you can't see it.
Yeah. It's so true.
You're in the middle of it and you can't see it. But looking back on it now, here are the mistakes I made. And I have incorporated all that into what I'm telling you guys.
I love that.
Don't make the mistakes I did.
Yes.
Because it costs you time and you only get to do this once.
Oh, my God. It's so true. I love that. I mean, it's so funny to hear you talk about some of the students, an engineer providing you with some better math.
God, yes.
I had a similar kind of experience. We teach a method for working corners and angles. We call it, some people call it pie in the corner. We call it working angles, busting a corner. And I discovered this when I was still on active duty during Force on Force. It was a long, dragged-out story. Won't go into that. And then I started incorporating our training classes. And I knew that it worked because I saw it work. Mm-hmm. And I was there to see it work. And then it worked again in future evolutions, and I could replicate it. I had control to replicate it. So I knew it worked.
Right.
But I had no idea why.
Right,
and I was in a class one day teaching this to the guys.
Exactly.
And the next day, I had a guy come with a blueprint roll. After the class, he went home on his CAD machine. He drew up the same thing with all the angles and the numbers, and he brought it to me, rolled it out on the hood of the car, and he starts to explain it to me. And I was like, "Holy shit, this is awesome!"
Boom.
Yes, it did. And I mean, it made sense at my cognitive level, but he was just going off, and he's like, "This is why it worked like this and this," and I was like, "This is so cool." So it's awesome to hear that.
Guys that throw that kind of stuff into to contribute to what you're doing, that's invaluable.
Oh, it's so true.
We can't be responsible for everything, but
absolutely.
It just can't be done. But we've got, like our pulling model off the floor, the shoulders. When you pull the bar off the floor, the arms are not vertical.
Yeah,
they can't be.
Yeah.
They never are. That's not the phenomenology.
Interesting.
Now, you can think that you can pull the bar off the floor with vertical arms, but if it's heavy enough, you can't.
You won't, yeah.
There are no examples of that occurring in nature.
Yeah.
So there's a reason why the shoulders are slightly in front of the bar when a heavy deadlift comes off the floor, and when a heavy clean comes off the floor, too.
Yeah.
All right, there's a reason for that. Now, what is it? Well, I had observed this for a long time. I observed this for a long time. Why do the hips need to be in a position that generates this position out in front of the bar? Well, I didn't know why.
Yeah.
I knew what.
Yes.
But I didn't know why.
Yes.
And so we started playing around with this anatomical explanation and stuff. And I had one of the people that attended the seminar was a math guy, and at about the same time that he figured out the math of the lat humerus relationship and all this other stuff, and sent it to me in a diagram that appears in the blue book, by the way. That
Nice.
diagram is in the blue book. I had figured out that we used to say the scapula was vertical to the bar when the bar comes off the floor.
Right.
And while that is true, it's irrelevant. It just happens that the scapula
That's a proper position.
is the proper position, and it's a good landmark, but it's not why. Why is the relationship that the lat has with the humerus as the bar comes off the floor, and the relationship of the bar over the middle of the foot. All that stuff, all that shit lines up in one certain alignment that is true for every human being.
Yes.
Every single human being pulls the bar off the ground like this, whether you want to or not.
Yeah.
If there's enough weight on the bar, that's weight comes off the ground.
Yeah.
All right. So you might as well teach it that way. Right? Just get it over with and teach it that way.
Yeah.
The bar comes off the ground with hips higher than you want them to be.
Yeah.
Because the deadlift is not a squat with a bar in the hands.
Right.
That's not what it is.
Yeah.
And so all of this stuff kind of landed on my lap in the same week.
Wow.
And I thought, wow, this is kind of interesting. This sure clears a bunch of shit up. This had never been articulated before.
Yeah.
So I went out to Stanford to talk to a math guy. He's a biomechanist out there about this. I actually got a plane in a hotel room, and I went out there and paid this guy to listen to me talk for 3 hours about this stuff. And his basic agreement with me, his basic conclusion is, yeah, you're probably right. You know, this guy was an important biomechanist. He wasn't an exercise biomechanist.
Yeah.
He was an actual biomechanist.
Nice.
And, you know, a guy that designed prostheses for hips and knees and stuff like that, and how the mechanics of the prostheses work against the actual forces, not this on paper bullshit.
Yeah.
It's a PE degree.
Yeah.
So he said, you're probably right.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
And they're not going to say, yeah, you're right.
Of course not.
Can't do that.
No,
They'll say, yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
Man, it was good enough for me. So we've taught it like this, and it's never been refuted.
Nice.
In fact, it's never even been addressed.
Really?
By anybody else.
Everybody's just accepted it.
I don't know if they've accepted
it,
but at least they don't argue with it.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
You know,
it's implied that they've accepted with it.
It's implied because unless you got a better idea.
Right, exactly.
You know, this is the way that's
how I look at it.
You know, unless you guys got a better idea that you hadn't told me about.
Yeah, and that's so awesome because in the years that I've been doing deadlifts, what I like to consider in a proper form, because there was a time that I did them terribly. I've always used as that cue my shoulder blades being directly over the barbell,
and they are.
Yeah,
but that's a coincidence.
Yes, I just thought it's so.
That's not when the shoulder blades aren't doing anything
exactly
because they're in that position. They just happen to be in that position because other things
are there.
Correct.
Yes,
that have to be in that position.
I love it, and the beautiful thing about that is like. Now knowing that, because I would try to concentrate on the shoulder blades too. I would kind of focus on what the shoulder blades were doing. And now, without, to a certain point, and then all my focus just went straight to the heels, just pushing through. So it's interesting to hear that now because I love, first of all, that was a great cue for me. That really helped change so much because it's an easy cue. Mm-hmm. It's an easy cue to set up and repeatably.
It's an easy thing to see if you're standing watching the lifter.
Absolutely. I didn't even think of that.
But what you really need to look at, because you can't see the shoulder blades, but what you can see are the angles.
Yeah.
You look at the angles the shins and the arms make.
Okay.
And once those are in a friendly position, then the bar comes off the floor. And if the hips change position as the bar comes off the floor, then you were in the wrong position.
Interesting.
They're too low.
Yeah.
If you do this right, that's what happens.
Yeah. And then
you come off the floor without any change in the hip position, and then the back angle starts to get more vertical the minute the bar leaves the floor.
Yeah.
In a correct deadlift. Now, clean, it's a little bit different than that. But a correct deadlift, if any of this takes place off the floor, any back angle change in the deadlift takes place off the floor, it's wrong. You were too low.
Huh.
One of the thing we articulate most accurately when we talk about the deadlift start position, if you don't feel your hamstrings tight, before the bar leaves the ground, you're in the wrong position.
That was another cue that just made sense. It made sense to me. It was easy to feel.
Yes,
because you can tell when they're.
You can tell clearly if the hamstrings aren't loaded, your ass is too low.
Yes. Oh, I love it. Mm-hmm. All right, let me ask you another question. What was best advice given to you by a mentor?
Starr told me one time, "You're not very coachable." He said,
"Appreciate your honesty.
You're not very coachable."
Appreciate your honesty.
Well, I never thought about that before. Maybe I'm not. So, and by being coachable, that doesn't mean you have to believe everything I tell you.
Yeah.
It just means shut up and try it.
For sure.
Shut up and try it.
Oh, my God.
Try it and see. Because I know more about this than you do. Now, I may be wrong.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then down the road, you're entitled to your own opinion.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to help you.
Yeah.
And I want you to at least attempt to do what I'm telling you to do. And if you can't do that, then I'm wasting my time.
For sure.
That's what he meant by that.
And I love hearing that.
Absolutely true.
I just republished a blog article that I did that was titled Unteachable.
Right.
And it was my observations of students, particular traits that I see in students that I'm wasting my time.
Yes.
And I'm gonna I'm gonna be cordial to you. I'm going to assist
Right.
you.
I mean,
in the,
you did
in the
pay me.
Yeah,
after all.
exactly.
Right.
But you until you're ready to hear what I have to say,
Right.
I can better suit the person next to you.
Right.
Or the
Until
other
you're
people.
ready to hear what I have to say, you're wasting your money.
Exactly.
Now, you are paying for my time.
Yeah.
And I've done my job.
Exactly.
But you're wasting your money.
Absolutely. And the point behind that was, if you are paying me, it's implied that you want to hear what I have to say.
Right.
And more than that, you're willing to try what I'm going to say.
Right.
When I have a peer come into a class, an equal peer of sorts, I'm always interested to hear what they have to say after I've kind of gone through certain evolutions and whatnot.
Right.
Like what's your thought process, what's your observations and feedback and stuff like that. And and a lot of times I'm looking for critiques from them to try to improve my game and do my job better. So if I'm waiting to hear from somebody who I consider to be an equal, and listen to what they have to say, I hope that message is also relayed to a student. Like, I'm still perfecting my game. My perfection is my goal. I know I won't attain it, but it doesn't mean that I'm not shooting for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I take the time to get feedback from my peers about what I'm doing in the instructing job, then I would like to think that other people would do the same thing from a student's job. So that's a great piece of advice.
I learn from people taking the seminar all the time. I'll get a question.
Yeah.
But 4 or 5 times a year, I'll get a question and I'll go, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
That's a very good point.
I love it when those happen, though.
Oh, yeah.
They're
God.
amazing.
I you know what I love about it is recognizing that it happened.
Yeah.
Realizing, hey, I still can learn.
Yes.
Here, this is fun.
There's another space that I just filled in my little memory bank.
Exactly.
I love that. All right, well, let's start wrapping things up here with a final question. What's the biggest takeaway you want the listeners to learn
from our conversation today?
Yes. Or in general?
What I'd like for everybody to realize about Starting Strength, our program, is that it is composed of 2 parts. It's composed of a correct analysis of the movement patterns that we utilize under the bar, and it is composed of, secondarily, the way to program those movement patterns to every single time on every single person that does this create improved force production.
Love it.
That's all there it is. This is, this is the only method of strength training being taught right now in the world that works every single time it is applied for every single person.
Nice.
It's the most efficient way to get strong.
Yeah.
It's the fastest way to get strong. And what I want you to understand is that it is a logical approach to a problem, just like an engineering
I love that. Yes.
solution. This is the engineering of strength.
I love that.
Is what Starting Strength is the engineering of strength. We start from first principles, meaning gravity, moment, mechanics, this sort of thing. Muscle contraction, we start with physiology, how do the muscles actually work, and we end up with this approach that we use in the gym.
Yeah.
And it works every single time it's tried. That doesn't mean that it's going to look the same for your grandmother as it does for her grandson.
Yeah.
But the principles are applied exactly the same way.
Yeah.
We find a way to have that person do the movement pattern in the most effective and efficient way possible under the bar.
Nice.
And then we incrementally increase the stress.
Nice.
For as long as it's possible to incrementally increase the stress. And if they're still alive, they can adapt. That's one of the features of being alive is your ability to adapt to stress.
I love it.
It works every single time it's tried. And there are not as many ways to train for strength as there are grains of sand on the beach. There aren't.
They're not.
They're not.
I love that. And there was one other thing that I wanted to talk about, and that was, and you've mentioned it several times throughout the podcast, but there has to be sufficient weight on the bar for you to learn.
Yes.
And if it's too light, there's no resistance, and there's no.
If it's too light, you can do it wrong.
Yeah, and get away with it.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
And that was one of the things too that I always, I shouldn't say always. That's not the right way to put it, but it wasn't until I actually felt confident enough to start lifting heavy that my technique actually started to get better.
Yes. Because it had to.
Yeah, exactly.
It had to.
Exactly.
Right. And that's why we do it the way we do it. The first day you come to the gym, we don't just do the empty bar.
Oh, nice.
No, we don't do the empty bar. Kid walks in the gym, 17-year-old kid. He's 5'11". He weighs 165 pounds. We're going to take that kid, and we're going to teach him how to squat with the empty bar. Then we're going to put 95 pounds on the bar.
Nice.
Then we're going to 125 on the bar. Then we're going to put 155 on the bar, and we're going to have him do that because it's starting to slow down a little bit, showing me that it's heavy for him. And he's going to do 3 sets of 5 with 155. Because if I'd stopped him at the empty bar, he would not have learned anything about how to push on something heavy.
Yeah.
And I would not have seen the movement problems that he was going to have at 155.
Yes.
Because if he's doing 155 and he's doing something wrong, I can correct it.
Yeah.
But if I stop him at an artificially light weight, I can't. You can do, if it's light enough, you can do it wrong.
Yeah.
All right. This is one of the problems with Olympic weightlifting coaching.
Oh.
All right. A heavy clean, a 1RM clean is not a 1RM pull. A 1RM deadlift is a 1RM pull.
Right.
So you're doing a pull with a lighter than 1RM weight.
Yeah.
And you can do it inefficiently off the floor if you want to. You shouldn't.
Ideally,
you shouldn't, but you can.
Interesting.
And just because the lifter is doing it wrong and he's a world champion doesn't mean that that's the best way to do it. And that's the problem. They don't. It's a problem.
It is. It's easy
It's a conceptual problem.
It's so, and we see it in a lot of other industries, but I see it.
Sure.
I see it in my industry as well. All right. Well, where can people learn more about Starting Strength and the rest of your crew?
Well, our website is startingstrength.com.
Okay.
Startingstrength.com. We've got a whole bunch of stuff on that website. That's the largest strength training website in the world.
Nice.
We've got hundreds and hundreds of in-depth articles.
Yes.
By hundreds and hundreds of different people.
Nice.
On the website. We have a very active forum where we communicate about things all day long.
Nice.
We offer seminars and training camps and in-person products just like you guys do. And our gym in Wichita Falls is the kind of the headquarters of the whole thing, but we're all over the place with our camps.
Yeah.
We only do our seminars in Wichita Falls.
Oh, nice.
Because we've got the equipment down, and I'm not going to fly commercial anymore.
Screw that.
Just not interested. Not interested in doing it. So
I don't.
You guys can fly to me.
Yeah.
Everybody likes to be there anyway.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
So
except for steakhouses.
Really.
Need to work on that.
Need to work
on that.
We need to work on our steakhouse situation. But as long as I have my beef, I just bought, just as a complete aside, I just bought 2 beef from a guy over in Nocona, and they dry aged those 4 sides for me for 4 weeks.
Oh.
It's high choice 4-week dry aged beef. And it's good, and I'm not going to a steakhouse.
So what I'm hearing is dinners at Mark's place. That's what I'm hearing.
If you can talk me into it, that'd be better.
Yeah, it would. It sure
would be better.
All right, folks. Well, that's a wrap. Thank you, Mark, for coming on the show. Sorry about that.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks for tuning in, folks. Thanks for the support, and thanks to our sponsors. I want to also thank the men and women holding the line. Check out our previous podcast by visiting bulletproofworkshop.com. Learn more about me and training opportunities by visiting tridateconcepts.com. Until then, I'm Jeff Gonzalez. You're listening to the Bulletproof Workshop podcast. Stay safe or be dangerous.
All right.